Welcome to the Women Leaders Association podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. Be sure to tune in each week to hear an empowering message from the world's top women executives, trailblazers, entrepreneurs, and all-around fierce female leaders. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland, and I will be taking you on a deep dive of each message to equip you with the principles, strategies, and tools you need to start crushing your goals, increasing your impact, creating work-life harmony, and did I mention have more fun? Because when you love what you do it better. The Women Leaders Association is the world's largest women executives association with over 30,000 women in executive and leadership positions who are committed to the development and advancement of women in the corporate arena. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association chapter, would enjoy daily podcasts, or you desire to become a part of the Women's Mastermind group near you, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
On today's podcast, hear from Debbie Collard. Debbie is an executive and business coach who helps business executives achieve their true leadership potential. She's also the co-founder and partner of Seasons Leadership Development Program. Welcome, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Oh, it's going to be such a great conversation. And so right before we pressed record, Debbie and I were kind of talking about the difference between leadership and management. So before we get into that important conversation, which absolutely has to happen, talk a little bit about your journey and how you got started with the business that you have now.
Absolutely. So I had a wonderful 30 plus year career in business in corporate America, culminating as an executive at the Boeing Company. Loved the career I had there. But one thing we're going to talk about today, probably and get into, is it wasn't as purposeful as it could have been. It was fantastic. It was great. Wasn't as purposeful as it might have been. And after leaving there with another colleague who had also graduated from Boeing, we don't say retired, we decided to start our own business, and it's called Seasons Leadership. It uses the seasons in nature as a metaphor for life and for leadership. And we have a mission to expand the number of excellent leaders there are in the world. And so that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I also love that you're like, we graduated. let's put a spin on that. I love it. So what have you found since you've left corporate America, right? And, really gotten into the heart of being an entrepreneur and the service, there's such a shift, I believe, from being in a corporate arena where there's almost this backing, like you feel like you have something there, whereas in an entrepreneur, like you are the back, you're the front, you're the back, you're the sides, you're
everything, you're it all.
Right, you're it all. And so talk a little bit about like what that transition was like for you, knowing that, okay, I have to leave corporate to go into entrepreneurship to in turn serve people in corporate. Like how did that happen for you?
Well, luckily, that 30-year career that I had, I did all different sorts of jobs. And my favorite jobs that I got to do during that corporate career were ones that had my fingers in lots of different pies and doing lots of different things. And I found that as I looked back on it, the majority of my jobs that I took involved variety. It involved coaching people above me. I couldn't have said what was required of a coach at that point, but it involved that when I look back on it. And so diving into entrepreneurship and all the things that had to be done, because I was in project management, program management, it wasn't as intimidating as it might be for somebody who's never been exposed to those things. But once I got into it, I was like, and Susan, my business partner, and I started talking, and we said, wow, how would it have been if we, in our corporate careers, had access to things much earlier, much sooner than we did, right?
Yeah.
If we had had classes and not been told, well, you have to be a certain level to qualify for that one, or we're not going to pay for this unless you do that, right? So if we had taken charge and been entrepreneurs in our corporate careers,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, like think like entrepreneurs, then we would have been better off, we feel. We both had excellent careers.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not upset about anything with that. But how much better would it have been?
Yeah.
How much better would it have been sooner for
Yeah.
us if we had done that? So we said, let's go help other leaders
Yeah.
learn what that's like, no matter where they are in their career, that they can be better than they are today and they can achieve goals and get out of their own way.
Yes, I love that. That's so important. And, one of the things that is really hitting home for me in that discussion is, I hear so much about companies trying to become more aligned with the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, right? And they're throwing in all these systems, they're just check boxing. Okay, we got this system, we got this system, we got this system, we got this system. So check, right? And there's still this lack of connectedness to what that actually looks like when it's lived out. And at the same time, I'm glad something is happening in the arena. And at the same time, let's go to our schools. Let's go to our children and let's start having the conversations with our children and having presentations in our schools. That, to me, just like what you're saying, had I received that kind of thinking and perspective shifts and all of that when I was still in my career, but had I adopted a different mindset and was able to see things in a new perspective, how greatly that could have impacted everything. Right. And
absolutely. That's where it starts.
Yes. So
that is where it starts when we learn these things and we get influenced at a young age by these different things. And so, unfortunately, those of us who don't get that kind of learning and influence early on then end up having to retrain ourselves later to, oh, wow, there's all this awakening. There's all these new ideas and thoughts. And not everybody is open to that. Not everybody is open to that. And so it does take being purposeful. Like I said, I wish I had been more purposeful in my career. It takes being purposeful and being your own advocate and going out there and saying, hey, I want to go take this because I want to be better at such and such. And if the boss tells you no, go back and ask again. And if they tell you no again, then figure it out. Figure out if it's important to you, figure out how you're going to do it.
Absolutely. And you cannot be more on point with that because, again, I've dealt with hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs and, hundreds of corporate arena people. And there is a difference in this, I'm going to wait until it gets paid for, right? Investing in what I desire to grow and learn and all that, I'm going to wait until my boss pays for it. When it's why? You can have that right now by investing in yourself. And I get that, well, I'm doing other things and I want to make sure that my pay's covered and all that. When you invest in your personal development in that way, getting leadership coaching, is what you do, it opens up so much more for you to be able to advance so much faster and with less pain than ever before. And it's when you take on that perspective, to me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And it is an investment, as you called it. It's an investment in yourself and in your future. And anything that we learn as human beings can never be taken away from us. Right. No one can take that away. So we hear about intellectual property and all this stuff, the things you're working for a corporation and you create something that's intellectual property. They own that basically, unless there's some different agreement, which I haven't heard of. But really, anything that you store in your own brain, that's yours.
Yep.
That's yours to take with you. And people start, when you start showing up in a different way because you've invested in yourself, then people look at you and go, I want some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want what that, and it differentiates you also as a leader. So say you're going for a job and on paper or on electrons, as the case may be, it looks like you're equal to somebody else,
Right.
right? Looks like same training, same amount of years, blah, blah, blah. And then when they interview you and they see all this coming out of you, this executive presence, this
Right.
way of being as a leader, then that's the differentiator. Then they look at you and go, oh, that's who we need on the team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And every atmosphere that I have been in, the number one comment I get is, oh my gosh, I love your energy. And that's what sets me apart from most anybody else. It's like and that's why I am an in-demand speaker and coach, because that's what people want. They want to be like, ooh, give me some of that, but it took investing in myself and growing myself and not thinking so many negative thoughts all the time. I just did a TED Talk a couple of weeks ago. And one of the statistics that I learned about in doing research for that talk was about how, the average person has between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. And out of those thoughts, 80% are negative. 80%.
How sad is that?
It is so sad, Debbie. It's so sad. And there was a high percentage, I think it was 80 to 90%. I don't know for sure. So just chill, everybody, if you're like fact checking me right now. But but it was the negative thoughts that you are thinking, like 90% of those are ruminating old negative thoughts. Like you're not even thinking new negative thoughts. You're just chewing on the old negative thoughts from yesterday, before, the year before. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, you need somebody to come alongside you and help pull you out of that.
Right. And the majority of my clients, after they've worked with me for a little bit, they're like, I love about you that you hold up the mirror to me. You make me see things that other people may be afraid to tell me or don't even care enough to tell me.
Right.
And you help me get out of my own way. Because when you're thinking these negative thoughts, I imagine, I don't know what percentage, I can't quote it, but I imagine a lot of them are focused on yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not something enough. I'm not good enough to do whatever it is. Why did I think I could do this? I'm not cut out for it. And so if you're thinking all those negative thoughts and that's where you're putting your energy, then you're never going to get out of that energy basement, right? You're just going to just keep wallowing in it.
Yeah.
And so having a coach or a leadership consultant to be able to talk with you and say, hey, when I hear you talking about this, here's what I hear you saying.
Right.
And then they go, wow, I didn't realize I was being that negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if we're ruminating over old thoughts all the time, replaying the same tapes, then nothing new's coming up, but we don't even realize we're doing it. It's a habit.
Exactly. And that there's so much power when you do choose to invest in yourself. It's like a next level of excitement, and like you said, there'll be your clients that are like, perhaps people just don't even care enough to tell me and hold the mirror to my face. And that's probably really true.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, it doesn't have to do with them.
They're focused on their own stuff.
Right. And so often people in leadership, and I say that in air quotes, if you're just listening and not watching on YouTube, people in leadership that view leadership as management. And they're very, 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 very different. You manage systems and things. You lead people.
Right.
Very different.
And they should be different. And people should treat them differently. But to your point, they don't. They don't always treat them differently. They think, oh, I got hired to this management job. I have this title now. I'm a manager. Mm-hmm. So that makes me synonymous with good leader, right? No, it doesn't.
Not at all.
Totally different skill set. Yeah. And leading people is a very particular skill set. And you must be a servant. You are there to serve the people that you lead, inspire them, motivate them, take care of them. Yeah. And a lot of managers are just like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to treat them like a cog or a robot, or they're not thinking about them as people. Mm-hmm. And it's so very important in leadership to be human and to recognize the humanness of others.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, I'm on these calls with with people not only doing podcast interviews like this, but, with the Women Leaders Association and the events and all the things that we do, and, all the hundreds of women that we talk to in the corporate arena, typically some entrepreneurs, but it's that same thing, when I get this title, that there's this, oh, okay, now I'm this. But if you don't continue to invest in yourself and want to pull out the good things in yourself, be, coupled with somebody who's willing to do that with you, that's why so many people in the workforce right now are like, all my employees are leaving. All my employees are complaining when they, reach these new position titles. And it's like, yes, because they don't feel fulfilled. It's not just about a paycheck anymore. People are very aware now of fulfillment. And it's like, wait a second, I was once going to just get a job because of a paycheck. And even though that might get them the job, that's what they want. They realize real quick, okay, I'm not going to stay here because I'm not connected to it. I don't feel fulfilled in it. I'm just meeting a need. That sucks. And what leaders do is, even though you might have been hired for a position, it's like, yes, I can train skill. I'm going to hire heart. I'm going to train skill. Right. And I'm going to see in you that, oh my gosh, actually your real gifting is in this area. Let's see where we can, grow in that. And like, that's leadership. That's truly what, if you ask any company right now that is struggling with employment, that's the area that I'm going to look at first. It's your people.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, what you just said, at Seasons Leadership, we believe that there are certain elements that are unique to leadership, but common across leadership. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in business, not for profit. It doesn't matter. Anywhere you're leading, these elements transcend those boundaries. And every leader needs to be good at these. One is absolutely people. The number one thing is absolutely inspiring and motivating people. You need to be really good at that. And we help leaders understand, well, like, I don't know what to do about that. I've never had to do that in my life. And so, I mean, there are natural leaders out there who say, I know I'm good at this, but I don't know why I'm good at this. So we help those leaders understand why, so it's repeatable.
Yeah.
And the leaders who say, I don't know what to do. I'm scared to death. I just got this new role.
Yeah.
And now I've got this big title and all this responsibility, but I don't even know where to start. Yeah. So they start in their comfort zone, which gets them in trouble instead of, seeking out. So at Seasons Leadership, we are on a mission to help leaders get out of their own way.
Yes.
Get over any hurdles they're facing and really achieve leadership excellence.
Yes. And that's where employee retention is going to come from. That's where brand recognition is going to come from. All of those things. Again, like if any of those areas are struggling, I'm looking at your people.
That's right.
And I love that you do that one, you recognize the need for that in all of these companies, there is a need for leadership. There's not one single company out there that doesn't need leadership advancement. Not one.
Absolutely. We agree with that. So we want to get the word out, and we want people to contact us and say, how can you help me? Because we tailor our offerings to any company or any organization, actually. It doesn't have to be a company. And we say, okay, we do that assessment that you talked about, right? And we say, what is going on here? That's the first thing we do. Like, what are your pain points? Where do you need the help? We usually end up looking at people first. In that regard. And even if that's not the presenting problem.
Right, exactly.
Right. And then we tailor how we're going to work with that organization. Some organizations, they just want us to come in and give a training class.
Right.
On some aspect of leadership. But others, they want it all. They want coaching. Right. So we have C-suite clients that we work with. We have first line leaders that we work with, and we work with entrepreneurs. We work with people in corporate. Like I said, it doesn't matter, because the elements of leadership transcend all of that. You see leaders when you're in Girl Scouts, or you see leaders when you're in any sports activities, right? That naturally emerge. and it's taking that and molding it into leadership in whatever arena you're going to go into.
Right.
It can only help you.
Right. I love that. And I love that this is such a paradox, but I love as complex as people are, as multifaceted as people are, how simple these like leadership elements like you're talking about can be in helping all of the people. Like it is so simple in that, we as people, again, because we're thinking 80% negative thoughts, we have this tendency to overcomplicate, overthink everything. And so I love
and skip over things that are simple because we look at it and go, oh no, that's too easy. That can't be the answer.
Or let's put that in the closet. We just won't address it. It'll be fine. Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you? We want to be sure to put all your links and stuff in the show notes, but what's one way that people can reach out to you?
Yeah. So they can reach out to me at Debbie@seasonsleadership.com. Easy one. And they can check us out on the website, contact us through there as well, seasonsleadership.com. So easy peasy.
I love it. And what, Debbie, what is one last piece of advice that you would have either for that, entrepreneur or executive that's like, how do I know when I need to ask for help?
Yep. The way you do that is you get started in asking for help. So you can research all day long. You can Google things. You can try to find all these articles, read them and apply them. But the number one way, and I practice what I preach, is get a coach.
Yeah.
Even if it's only an introductory call, and you should have a coach that you're a good fit with. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
But even if it's only an introductory call to say, hey, I think I might be interested in getting some help in this, but I don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just have the conversation.
Yes.
Making that phone call or sending that email to request that is probably the hardest first step, but it's the most important.
Yeah. And there's so much depth in living the thing out. I think that's where true authority comes from. And like you said, you practice what you preach, and that matters, when, especially in today's world where ChatGPT is right there, right? We have access to so much information. And so our like knowledge capacity is very large. And at the same time, it still matters to work with somebody who's living it out, who has seen the ins and outs of it. And that's why, again, like your introductory call, those matter, because y'all should be a good fit for each other. You should be able to be able to read each other and respond. Like some people can't handle me because I am very high energy, and it's like, I can bring myself and match my clients pretty well, but I prefer to work with people that get excited about the energy. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah.
And yes, as somebody in leadership that wants to develop different aspects of yourself, absolutely do that. Have these calls, get on the calls and see, can they not only help me with the like practical living out of the thing, but also help me to really advance and grow the best parts of who I am and making sure that's able to be expressed.
Which starts with understanding, right? Yeah. Understanding who am I and how do I show up? How do I show up to others? How do others see me? And then when you start having that conversation, then it becomes really clear really quickly, oh, I might want to focus in this area or in that area. And to the point about being a good fit with your coach, don't agonize. If you have a recommendation for a coach or someone you want to call and you're not a good fit, that coach is going to refer you to somebody else. Right. So it's just about having the courage to pick up the phone or to send an email.
Yep.
And say, hey, I would like to schedule an introductory call.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Oh, this is so good, Debbie. Thank you so much for this conversation. Y'all be sure to go check out Seasons Leadership and get in touch with Debbie if you are needing any assistance in that area, which I believe we all do at some time. So again, thank you so much for this conversation, Debbie.
Thank you. I've enjoyed meeting you energy levels today.
Yes. It's so fun. I love it, Debbie. Thanks so much. And if you are looking to get involved in a chapter near you, be sure to check out womenleaderspodcast.com. Bye for now.